Five, four, three, two, one.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And today I have a very special guest. I'm very excited to have him on. And that is Joe from Indie Arcade Wave. Great to have
Hello.
you here, Joe.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited. I haven't done a lot of interviews. Like I interview a lot of people, but I don't get interviewed a ton. So this is a fun experience for me.
Yeah. So tell our audience a little bit about yourself, and like your background and passion for indie games, if you will.
Okay. I'm Joe. I run Indie Arcade Wave. I absolutely love video games. Just I always have, and that kind of led me down this path. I went to school for marketing and entrepreneurship, so I've always had this interest in, marketing, showing things off. I worked sales since I was 14, so 16 years now I've been in sales. And I guess I'll start with like where my interest in like working on games started. And that was Cliff Bleszinski talking about Gears of War 2 at E3 when they were first announcing it. And he was talking about how much he enjoyed working with his team and working on a game and seeing it go from this concept, this idea, and then actually materialize into a game that, millions and millions of people love playing. And I still enjoy the Gears of War series, even though the recent games have been subpar. But that's where it all started. And after I graduated college, I came back and was just, hanging out with some friends. My wife's little brother had a bunch of friends that I started, kind of getting to know, and we started going to concerts together. And this is Dylan Davis, who is the artist behind Galactic Battleground. He showed me after a show one night. He was like, check out this game. And I love Galaga. It's one of my favorite arcade games ever. And he was like, it's multiplayer Galaga. I played one game of it, and I basically was like, okay, what do I have to do to get involved? Like I'll do whatever we need to do to like help make this a thing. And at this point, it wasn't even an arcade idea. Like they were showing it on an Apple TV, Apple II. I don't even know what exactly it's called. I'm not big on Apple stuff, but basically they were showing it off at conventions in Minneapolis, and this was still like a demo version of it, very early beta. And as we were talking more and more, I was like, this could be really cool for an arcade. Like, why don't we put it in Uptown in Minneapolis? And so we approached Uptown in Minneapolis after we had been working on it for, another 6, 8 months after I joined the team. And they were like, yeah, we'd love to show it off. So we built a cabinet exclusively for that arcade. And I think that's kind of how a lot of the indie guys in the space are getting started. Since then, I've met a bunch of other developers. We thought we were the only ones doing it. After finding out about Killer Queen, that opened the door into Deathball and Switch and Shoot and Cosmotrons, and just all these other games just started to flood. And as time has gone on, we're just finding more and more people that are interested in the idea of developing a game exclusively for the arcade space, because the only people really doing it now are like Bandai Namco. I mean, that's really kind of it, I guess. There's not a ton of people that are developing for the arcade, and it's mostly for family entertainment centers like Dave and Buster's and stuff like that. So it's getting these huge IPs and developing these like massive $10,000 to $30,000 games that are out of the reach of a lot of arcade bar owners. So we kind of fell into that niche, and ever since I've gotten into the space, I just thought it was cool to hear other people's stories, and I'm so interested in it. I thought, why not tell people's stories? Like, just let them come on the show and tell them what they do and why they do it, and let other people figure it out and see if they want to do it themselves.
Yeah, that's cool. And I mean, you mentioned like that there's not a lot of these like mainstream companies doing games in like arcade spaces or entertainment places. And I think the closest that I've seen that would be like considered mainstream, I guess, is do you guys have Round One where you are? It's
We
like a
don't.
bowling. Okay, well, out here we have a thing called Round One now, and it's like a big bowling alley center,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like half bowling alley, half bigger half like
Right.
entertainment. And And so I went there more recently, like within the last couple months, and was like just perusing the arcade section. And I was actually kind of surprised. Like I didn't think there was going to be as much as there was, but I think it was like you're saying, there was like Bandai Namco and then Sega and Nintendo,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, Mario Kart GP and
Yep.
Daytona. And then the rest of it, like, I mean, they must have had almost 100 of those crane machines. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, it's so gambly, like a lot of the stuff that they have. And then the only other good part was they had like some stand-up shooters, and they had like the Vulix cabs,
Yep.
and what was the other thing? Oh, like dancing games, like
Okay.
Beat Mania, Dance DDR, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, like, where obviously in the past we had a lot, there was like that transitional point too, where you had like all the upright cabs, and you had like the DDRs and the racing games and all that, and
Right.
all these companies. But yeah, I mean, I would say it was primarily like Capcom, Sega, and Nintendo and Bandai Namco were like the four that were really notable in there.
Right. Yeah, I've never been to a round one, but I'm familiar with them. I've heard a lot of people talking about them. I know they're big down in Dallas. When we took our trip to Dallas, a lot of those arcade owners were talking about them. But um, in the community, we call, family entertainment centers like that, we call them kiddie casinos, because you're just
Yeah,
running in there to get tickets, and you're saving up all your money to buy that Xbox that's like 1 million tickets, and you end up spending $4,000 to get it when you could have just gone and bought one new from the store for like $300. Um,
right.
so that's it. It
Yeah,
is.
it's
You're right. It's
crazy.
like gambling for little kids. It's like a casino.
Yeah. So um and it sucks because you used to be able to play arcade games for a quarter, 50
Right.
whatever. But and now they use cards,
Hmm.
everywhere you go. They use cards. But anyways, yeah. So indie dev, I think what really got me like interested in like the indie stuff was when I saw Glitch Bar on
Hmm.
Bob Rose
Token Taverns.
taverns. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. So I followed him on Instagram. And by the way, I love your Glitch Bar shirt that you have. Uh,
Thank you.
that's a really cool shirt.
Yeah.
But
The what is it? It's the Grand Theft Auto Vice City kind of style.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, love it. Um, what's up, guys? I have to say hi to my mods and my quick. Thank you all for joining us. And and we got a super chat. Y'all, what's up? Hey Jade and Joe, I love the channel. Since I want to open an arcadist channel, is really helpful with all the interviews. Arcade owners, keep it up, man.
Thank you. I mean, that's
Thank you.
what I'm trying to do. Like, I want to help people open up more arcade bars. I want to bring more indies to arcades. I mean, I love going to arcade bars. Like, I travel across the country to do it and show off the game. So the more arcade bars, the better. I was actually just in Chicago 2 weeks ago for Combo Breakers. So I checked
You
out
guys,
Galloping Ghosts and Logan Arcade.
you should try. You should try and link up with him, Ezekiel, because Ezekiel's really doing a lot of stuff. And he's got, I mean, as far as like arcade stuff, but he's also got like some cool stuff in the works. But you two should talk, huh? Get
Yeah,
out there, have a
DM me. I'm
conversation.
happy to talk about it.
Um, so yeah, well, wait, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. And I saw a lot of had, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And there's a couple other ones that are like consoleized, not arcade exclusives, that I really thought would make cool ones, like Galacticon.
Mm.
Um, but anyways, that the jousting. Wait, was it jousting? What's the one that like everybody is like super competitive about at
Killer
Glitch
Queen.
Bar? Killer Queen. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, Killer Queen, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And they had so many indie cabs there. My mind was kind of blown because I was like, I didn't realize that there was like this much of a scene, like that there was this many cabs and stuff.
Yeah,
But
Glitch Bar is incredible. I agree.
yeah, I would love to visit there someday. But what are some of your I guess like top picks for indie games that we've probably never heard of, that most arcade enthusiasts have probably never heard of?
Okay. Well, I'll just get the biased ones out of the way. Galactic Battleground, incredible game. Four-player Galaga, power-ups, all that stuff. Food Fight Frenzy, which is our newest game. We worked with Atari to basically turn Food Fight, which is an incredible game. I mean, I feel like everybody should get to play it, but it's such a rare cabinet. It's so hard to find.
Mm.
Like playing it on the original hardware of the cabinet is completely different than playing it on, I mean, say the Xbox One version of what was it, Atari's 50th anniversary that they released recently. Like playing it on there
Oh
is
yeah,
it's
yeah.
completely different. I mean, you get the same feel, but that original joystick is specifically made for that game. So we took that, turned it into a four-player game. So everything's the same. You still have no Byrrc Alpine Ghost, kind of a downside. There's there's still the chef, there's still the ice cream cone, there's still the different foods that you would throw, but at the same time you get to play against your friends. Last one, yeah, see, Paul got to play it at MGC, super fun. But yeah, like
I'm jealous.
having the idea of playing against your friends at the same time, last man standing, and then the round ends and it goes to the next round is kind of the way we developed it. So you still get all the same features, same look, same feel as the original cabinet, but you get to play with your friends this time. Games that I absolutely love that are indies, Deathball, incredible game. Shout out Tony. Basically two-player wizard soccer. They've got it at Glitch Bar. I think he's got like 40, 50 cabinets out in the wild, so it shouldn't be terribly hard to find. If you're in a major city, you should probably be able to find one. I think he has a
Hmm.
map on his website. Great art, great speed of the game. Um, yeah, I mean, it's I could try to find some video, but let's think Armed and
Well,
Gelatinous is awesome. I just interviewed them.
this is Joe's YouTube, you guys. So obviously, I'm going to leave a link down in the description. But make sure you go check his channel out, and subscribe. And he's got a ton of cool videos on here. But I did want to look up that one that you were just talking about. Could you tell me the name again?
Deathball. I've got a
Death.
video of some gameplay from a little while ago.
Oh,
Let's see. Yeah, if you look up Deathball Arcade, you should find it.
okay. Here we go.
So
Right
I've been
here.
playing this one for a while. I first met Tony, the creator of Deathball, from at Midwest Gaming Classic in 2018, I think it was. That was when we first met Dan from DSM Arcade and the Cosmotrons guys as well. Wizard Soccer is the easiest way to describe this game. So you're basically kicking the ball into the other person's goal. You got 3 lives. Whoever has a life at the end wins. The cool thing is you have this feature of the bubble. You can see it. It's behind the guys, like the purple bubble or the green bubble. And you can set that bubble to stay. It's a hard bubble. It'll reflect the ball back, and it won't break after one hit. It might take a couple hits to break, but it just adds another dynamic to the game. 1v1 is super fun. I've been telling Tony for a long time he needs to make a 2v2. I know he's worked on it, but it's not public yet. But that's an incredibly fun game. They've got it at Glitch Bar. If you ever get a chance to play it, you need to. Midwest Gaming Classic is a great place to play these games. The lead guy behind that, Dan Lucen, has been super supportive. He generally gives indie developers a free space to show their games because he wants to bring this scene to more people. He's been
Yeah,
with
that's
us.
really cool.
I think we've been there like 6 years now, showing off our games. And pretty much anytime I find a new developer, I tell them about this convention, and he just immediately is like, "Yep, throw them in the booth. Like, bring them with you. Like, I'd be happy to have them here." I've even had Steve, who made Psychic Space Wars, who's been a subscriber for a very long time, reached out to me and asked if he could come to the show, and he brought his game there the first time he had ever really shown it publicly, and that was really exciting to see someone that has been watching the show for so long and kind of got inspired to build the game because of the show. Actually displayed at a convention. Other
We
games
got
that
a
I
question
like,
here.
go for it. So does he do
Says
software design for these games? I don't. I don't do the designing, or I don't do coding, and I don't do art. I'm basically sales and marketing, but I help with playtesting and balancing and coming up with the ideas. So we usually have meetings. Yeah, time to come to Milwaukee. He's onto something here. I'll sit down with the team and we'll kind of go over ideas of how we can change things, or like our partners that we worked with on Food Fight, they came to us and they were like, hey, we want you to make a multiplayer Food Fight game. Give us a pitch. And so we spent a few weeks kind of going over how to make the game fun for 4 players, how to balance it, but we really wanted to stick to the retro aesthetic of it. We didn't want to pull away and do a remastered version, really, where we completely change everything. We wanted it to stay original, so we used the original sprites. We recoded it from scratch and went the whole route of like, let's make Food Fight again and then add 4 players to it, so that we honored the classic way. And it was really good to see people who actually own a Food Fight cabinet at MGC tell us that it feels almost identical. The pace of the game, the controls of the game, the way the food flies and the way you throw it. Like, it was a huge compliment to hear from someone that has the cabinet that we were trying to emulate, and say that our game feels similar enough that he would confuse it for the original cabinet. We even had the world record holder of Food Fight, who owns a couple cabinets, reach out to us and was like, I want to try the game. If you need someone to test it, let me know. I'll be there. So it's been really fun working with Atari on that one. Other games,
that's really cool.
I love everything that DSM makes. Dan is incredible. He made basically what he does is he finds indie games that he really likes, like Switch and Shoot. I'm sure most people watching are familiar with Nidhogg 2. That was another one. He basically went to the developers and asked if he could use the license to put it into an arcade cabinet, and they were like, yes, that sounds awesome. So that's exactly what he did. He built an arcade cabinet. Everybody I'm talking about, I have interviews with. So if anybody's interested in like a specific game, how it was made or anything like that, all of these guys have been on the show multiple times. I think I've had Dan on 3 or 4 times. So yeah, Messoff is the developer behind that. And then Dan built the cabinet and brought it to the arcade space. There's honestly too many indie games right now to shout out everybody, but Armed and Gelatinous, Deathball, Switch and Shoot, Nidhogg 2, Killer Queen is great, Black Emperor is great. Oh God, I know I'm gonna forget somebody. I'm gonna feel so bad about doing it. If you're really interested in indie games, look up Wonderville. Wonderville is the spot. If you're ever in Brooklyn, New York, I think they have like 30 or 40 games on the floor, and they're only indies, like one of one cabinets. The guy who runs it, Mark, him and his wife, I know Mark is a teacher. He actually teaches in New York for game design and Unity, and his partners do the same thing. And so they just have tons of developers coming through the doors, and they'll make stuff. Yeah, Killer Queen is a 10-player game. 2 cabinets, 5 players on each. It's wild. It's a very entertaining game. It gets incredibly hyped. It does take a community, so if an arcade is interested in purchasing one, I'd definitely recommend looking at the idea of having a community manager, somebody that wants to be involved. It's a nod to Joust, basically. It's a 10-player Joust objective game where you have 3 different ways to win simultaneously, whether you're doing military, which is just killing the queen. The queen has 3 lives. Or you're collecting berries, which are just objects you find on the screen. They're little purple balls. You pick them up, you bring them to your hive, and then they're saved there. Or you move the snail, which is an objective that's just in the middle of the map. It's fair game for anybody that wants to get to it, and you just sit on the snail and it moves. That's pretty much what it does until it's in the goal. They do have them at up down. Yep, lots of them at up downs. I think pretty much every up down has a killer queen, if not multiples.
Yeah, and they're just like really cool looking cabinets too.
Yeah,
I'm all about the cabinet aesthetic, and I mean, a lot of the indies just do it really well.
Yeah, the art is a big part. I mean, we want to show off the art.
Yeah, so we have so Bill and Messiah here well, Bill was like behind the development. He's doing like a consoleized system with Unico,
Okay.
and they're actually gonna do like they want to have a lot of like indie games on there. Um, but obviously, like I know you focus more on putting games like exclusively in arcades and stuff. But anyways, so that's why he's like, oh, this is cool because he's like really into like indie dev and stuff like that. And Bill is like a coder, so he's like
Okay.
all coder crazy.
Yeah, I know not all of us are like it has to be arcade exclusive. There are a good chunk of indie arcade developers that are releasing to console, like Armed and Gelatinous is one. They just finished their couch edition, so they're going to be on pretty much every single system, Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, PC, all that stuff. Um, Diebreakers, I just interviewed them the other day. They, I believe, are already on Steam. Cosmotrons is coming to Steam. Um, there's a handful of people that are developing that are going the Steam route too, so that they will be available on consoles. So there are definitely people you could talk to if you're interested in that. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Well, sorry. So Bill is like he's like the head of Bash Studios,
okay.
um, Bash Gaming. So yeah, that's I meant to tell you the name. But anyways, yeah, indie stuff is cool, and it's definitely something that I've been like more drawn to, especially since I saw really Token Taverns. But I mean, it's really interesting to like pick your brain and hear you stuff like it's the rabbit hole just is so deep
hmm
of
I mean, I've been covering it for over 4 years, and I've been a part of it for I think 7 now. So, Killer Queen was doing it for it's got to be 12-ish, 13 years now. I think the
It's
one that I'm
crazy.
forgetting that I feel bad for forgetting because he's been awesome the whole time I've known him is Video Gamo Inc. down in Argentina. So a lot of people don't know that there is actually a big indie arcade scene down in Argentina. And they created Nave, I think in like 2013, 14, something in that ballpark. And that's a one player survival game. I honestly don't know how much there's gonna be on, like, other than our interview. You could go to the interview and then jump in. There's gameplay in there. Um, but they have 3 games now, I believe, and one of them is available in the US. That's Dobotone, which is like a party game. And that's only available at Wonderville in New York and in Brooklyn.
Hmm.
So there's
I
there's pockets all over the world, even especially around the U.S. There's like Midwest pocket, West Coast pocket. New York is a massive pocket. Florida is a pretty big pocket too. So they're all over the place. Yeah, this is gameplay of Food Fight Frenzy, 4 player. Um, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy playing it.
oh
Like
my god. Yeah, I love Food Fight. When I was little, I I think I saw it in the arcade like one time.
mm,
And but
it
I
didn't sell well.
remember no, it didn't. And it wasn't like spread, throughout all the arcades like you would have thought it would have been in the popular spots and stuff. But it is such a cool looking cab. It's an amazing looking cab. But the game is so fun. And it was such a fun game. When I was a kid, I had it on Atari, and I would play it like just sleep. And I had the XEGS, which is like the 8-bit family, so it's pretty good. And then they had the 800 version, which was like really close to the arcade actually. Um, and I just loved it. I didn't actually like play the arcade version until I was older, and obviously it's one of those games that's just a masterpiece. It's a beautiful game. Everything about it is done right. And so when I saw this, I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, and it's so cool that everything about it is official, and like, you guys are actually working with Atari on that. Um, Side note before I forget, because I was about Tempest a minute ago. I don't know if you're a fan of like the Tempest game.
hmm
But are you a
Yeah,
Tempest
I
fan?
love Tempest. Yeah, Tempest is super fun.
Okay.
Actually, that's one that's potentially in the library. We are thinking about doing a vector game next, but
Okay,
we
okay.
haven't committed to anything.
I was gonna say, dude, because you need to push Tempest. Because I mean, I have like the remakes of Tempest, like Tempest 2000. Which I hope you've played that. It's an incredible remake. And then I think Tempest 4000 on PS4. And I just, I've thought since that came out, like, oh, this would be like such a cool modern game to put in like an arcade cab.
Mm.
But anyways, yeah, Tempest would be like a really cool one for them to bring back in like format. Um,
Yeah, I've
and
only
yeah.
ever played the arcade version. I haven't played anything other than like on original hardware. That's the only Tempest I've ever played, and it's I loved it. So I'm sure if I played it on like
Yeah.
on a system, like I'm thinking kind of like I don't know, it's got kind of like a Geometry Wars vibe, but there's more movement there. If there was a remake where you had a little bit more movement in Tempest, I think
So
that'd be cool.
I'm gonna show you because I can say so much, but I'll show you like the first one that really like sprung all of them afterwards and made them really good. But they added in like a lot of like really cool dynamics, like you can jump, you get like additional weapons add-ons and stuff like that. This is 10,000 on the wire. And you start off with like basic shooting, and then you get these things. They upgrade you. They upgrade your weapons, and then
Okay.
it keeps going. You just keep picking them up. Now you can jump, so he can jump off of the grid and actually
Oh,
like, yeah, jack more stuff. But yeah, it's freaking awesome. Such a good game, and this would be a really fun one too to have like a multi set up on.
right.
I don't know exactly you would pull it off, like maybe like split screen or something. I don't know, but
That's always the hardest
um
thing when we discuss these games is like, here's an idea, like here's a game that we could remake, and we're like, how do we make it multiplayer? Like, is it interactive? Is it a race? Like, what's the layout of this? Because that's where the fun is, right? Is how is it adapted to
right.
have that multiplayer aspect? If you just put four people on a cabinet and they're all playing individually, there's not really anything fun or different about it. You got to kind of make it its own, and that's the
Right.
hardest part about getting these licenses is really trying to figure out how to make it unique enough that it's fun and it doesn't just feel like we took this license and just put it in an arcade cabinet, like go buy it. We want to make it special. We want to leave our mark on the game without ruining it.
Yeah, yeah. I feel, and it would be really like this is a more modern uh remake. This is like the one, I believe, Tempest 4000, and
Okay.
it looks more like it looks more like the original, I think, just as far as like the graphics and stuff.
Right.
Um but yeah, so I mean, I think you got to try it out. If you have a PS4, PS5, I don't think it's a very expensive game, but you should play it because it's freaking awesome.
I'm sure I could
And
probably
yeah,
find it on PC, so I can look for it definitely.
oh yeah, Steam.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll just go grab it on
so
Steam
yeah,
after this, honestly, because I
yeah,
love
check it out for
Tempest.
sure. And but yeah, I would love to see that. I hope that does happen with Tempest because that would be, oh, that'd be awesome.
I would love to work on it too. That'd just be such a cool, like having an Atari game like in our hat. Like our development studio is called Slackers Inc. So being able to work on like a multiplayer Galaga that we love, our own game, and then having Food Fight and Atari, just it's cool. We're excited to work with more people and everything.
So what, like, as far as what you can share right now, what is like the kind of like the maybe like biggest thing that you guys have brewing that you can talk about?
So I can say this: we did make a pitch for our next game, and that's all I can say because we haven't even talked to them about it yet necessarily. Like they have our pitch, they're looking at it, and we don't even necessarily have they don't even have the license yet for it. So it's kind of
Mhm.
all just like theoretically, if we got this license, would you make this game? How would you do it? Is kind of where we're at right now. So there's really nothing to tell. It is kind of what I'm saying. all the Atari stuff is public now. Food Fight is public, but we haven't even gotten to the point of like start making this game. So
Mm,
there's a few ideas that we've pitched out, and we'll see what happens in the next month or two if we start working on something new. But if we do start working on something new, we won't be able to say anything until we're
right.
displaying it at a convention. So
Yeah. Is what was I gonna say? Oh, Food Fight. So do you know like how much that like a one of those cocktails actually cost if you wanted to purchase one?
So it's kind of still in a flex area. The
Mm-hmm.
version that's
Sure.
shown in videos or photos that I've posted, it's still a prototype build. What happened is, so we're working with Brian Armitage and Tom Kogan, who run Retro Arcade Remakes. They did a remake of Taito's Ice Cold Beer, as well as a 4-player Warlords cocktail cabinet. And what we did is when we made Food Fight, they just took the cocktail from Warlords and we just threw it in, new control panel, put the game in here. This is what we're going to demo it as, and we'll see how it works. So there will be modifications to the cabinet in the future. We haven't even done the prototyping with Fun Company yet. We believe that's who we're going to be building the cabinets with. That's who we build Galactic Battleground with. I know that Retro Remakes are looking at going that direction with them too. So as a ballpark, I could say 4 to 6 thousand in that area, probably closer to 5 is where that's going to land. I would think like our cocktail for Galactic Battleground is 5,500. Our stand up is 5,000. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll probably be pretty similar to that. It might even be on the cheaper end just because our cocktail for Galactic Battleground has like a full marquee bar and an infinity mirror on the marquee, as well as multiple monitors and stuff. The cocktail for Food Fight won't have the pipe or any of the marquees or anything. It'll all be just the standard cocktail. So that cuts a lot on cost. So that cuts a lot to what we sell it for. So I would say a safe idea is probably going to be like 5,000 ish if you're
Okay.
expecting to buy one. That's probably what I
Yeah.
would think. And Q4 is kind of the goal on that one.
Cool. 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 Well, I will definitely be looking forward to that. Let's see. So what else? What else can you tell me about are there any like designated, let's do that. Cause where what let's say like what are some of the biggest indie arcade like hotspots or like barcades
For like
that
locations to play the games.
yeah, well, yeah, just like locations that you know of, like where you could say, "Oh, in this state, I know, go here. In this state, go there." Like,
Okay. Some of the biggest ones, I mean, you already mentioned Glitch Bar. They've got
mm-hmm.
8 or 9, I think, on the floor. They've got a Downwell cabinet, which is a local build. So obviously, if you're familiar with the game Downwell, that one is available at Glitch Bar. They've got a really cool section kind of in the back. I think it's at like 2-ish minutes. This was during their big Killer Queen tournament that they run every year called Hive City Classic. So there were
Okay.
extra Killer Queen cabinets there. I think they just had the 2. But incredible aesthetic for the bar. Shout out to Chris and Dwight, the people that run it. Dwight's the owner. Chris is his partner with that. Um, Incredible place, great arcade bar, good food, good drinks, all that stuff. They've got their games towards the back. Yes, there are. Oh yeah, martinis with the cocktail. I think that's gonna be like you have to supply your own, like a
Yeah.
BYOB situation.
He's
But
being a
yeah,
smartass.
um,
He's Virginia.
Virginia. I know West Virginia. There's a place called Starport. I don't know if he has them on the floor. He's currently expanding his arcade, but I think Chris Myers owns like almost all of them. I've interviewed Chris Myers a couple times if you're interested in that. Um, he has a lot of games, and he's trying to create a dedicated indie space in his arcade with the next expansion. Um, but yeah, Glitch Bar has tons of them. So that's Florida has a few. I think Leaderboards might have a couple. Arcade Monsters has a handful of indies down there in Orlando. Texas has a whole bunch, like Free Play Dallas, Free Play Denton, Arlington. All of those locations have at least Killer Queens. Galactic Battleground is headed to Dallas. I know they have Enter the Gungeon at a couple locations, which is an incredible light gun game if you have a chance to play it. Um, man, I'm just
Enter
trying to
the
think like
Gungeon.
Enter the Gungeon. So if you're familiar with or Enter the Gungeon was turned into a four-player or two-player light gun game by Griffin Aerotech. They made Sky Cursor and one other game I'm forgetting the name of. Um, but that one was a partnership between Devolver, who works with Dodge Roll,
There's your
who
favorite.
made who made who made Enter the Gungeon, and then they made House of the Gun Dead, which is the dedicated light gun version. Um,
Uh,
those are in like probably 20 to 25 arcades across the country. They have a list. If you look them up on their social medias, they'll show you all the arcades that they're in. Most of the indie guys do. If you go to their website, you can see a good idea of where they're at. But the cabinets do move around. They're kind of hard to track sometimes. Um,
God,
other
they're just
places.
like just looking at all this. Just it's like making my mouth water. I'm like, oh, like
Yeah,
let me go
that
play.
was the whole indie section that we just passed.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many good like
So many good
games that
games.
I haven't played. Yeah.
Um, you're in California, or you're on the West Coast, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm in California.
What's
So we
what's
have
the biggest city you're near?
I'm about an I I'm about an hour and a half away from San Diego and then about
Okay.
2 hours from LA.
Okay.
Be probably the two
Okay.
major
Tons of killer queens out
but
there. I know that.
mm, yeah,
Um,
but I don't go out to San Diego that often. LA, because I used to live in San Diego, but
okay.
LA is like, oh my god, dude, it's like a freaking nightmare to get around in LA out there. And I'm not like a huge city person, so I kind of live out like if you saw where I lived in California, you'd be like, that's California. Like it doesn't even really look like California out here. It's like deserty, somewhere between like deserty and wine country or something, like maybe
Okay.
more northern California.
Okay. I was
Oh,
in Palm Springs a couple months ago, so I
oh,
got
that's close to
the
me.
deserty California idea. Okay.
Oh, dude. Well, next time you come out to Palm Springs, you should let me know.
I
Because
will.
I have a friend who lives out there. And I was actually just out there recently as well. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
I didn't visit any arcades while I was out there, unfortunately. That
Oh
was
no.
I always forget about that little that drop in there with that Donkey Kong cabinet that they have at Glitch Bar is signed by Billy Mitchell. He's in there all the time.
Yeah.
That's he likes to play in there. So that's cool that he signed that cabinet for them after I want to say he hit the kill screen on that cabinet, but not 100%. Um, yeah, it's honestly like it's hard to track all of these arcades that have a lot of indies. Just thinking about it, like I know Wonderville is like number one without a doubt, Brooklyn, New York. Um, Orno Arcade in Maine. I don't remember the city exactly. I have a walkthrough of Wonderville. It's like every single game in there. Um, I think the one under it is more recent, but um,
Oh,
they have
this
so many
one,
games. Yep, that one. Yeah, so the
dude.
owner walked through in this video.
More people need to be watching these.
I love arcades. Like if I go to an arcade, I usually film. So if you're
That
not
is
super into
sick.
the indie stuff and you just want to see arcades, like I have that stuff on the channel too. That's kind of a direction
Oh
I've been
yeah,
going with the channel.
I
Just did a
love it.
full
I love it.
53-minute walkthrough of Galloping Ghosts. 984 games on the floor. So many prototypes and rare stuff in there. He's got, I think, one indie. He's got Sky Cursor in there right now. I guess indie as in like this new scene. There's a lot of prototypes and like
Mm.
one-off games that were made back then. But so there's a Nidhogg and a Black Emperor, KQ. So these are all kind of like indies that I show and promote for and think need to get out, honestly. But yeah, I guess other indie arcades like Up Down is a good one. If you have an Up Down near you, they usually have like at least
Super
one or
sharp
two.
bird.
They've got some crazy games in there. So some of these are developed by students at I don't
Thing
remember.
party.
It's a New York school, but when one really stands out to the guys at Wonderville, like they'll build a cabinet for it and they'll bring it in. This was a unique one.
That's cool.
This was made during the lockdowns, and they basically were like, let's make a game that there's no physical touching. So like you control it with your foot under the cabinet. I think there's pedals on it too. So that's like, how many arcade games have you played with your feet? You know, like it's just such a unique
Right.
idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Like an upright cab. That's really cool.
Foiled is like a multiplayer fencing game. Armed and Gelatinous is a 4-player party game. There's sports games in there. There's shooting games in there. I just did an interview with them about how they released to console now. So they go over like the whole line of how to get onto PlayStation, how to get onto Xbox, how to get onto Switch, how to get onto PC, differences in developing for each system, and like that was insane to me. It just made me realize I always make the joke about people that develop for the arcade, like, why did you take this crazy path of developing exclusively for arcade? And after he talked about systems, I was like, take the easy path, put it in a cabinet, like avoid doing 4 different systems, and like he had to rewrite code for every system. It was just a crazy thing.
Yeah. That's how. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. Wait, that's like
That's an
not.
indie pinball machine.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yes.
Oh my
So
God, wait, is it?
the way I could tell the quick story of Wonderville, how everything started. Death by Audio Arcade was Death by Audio was a place that Mark and his friends were living in when they were playing music and working on stuff. And he had the idea to bring in an arcade game while they were there, and it kind of just took off. They were like, "Wow, this worked out. Like, let's continue making games." And so then they created their studio, which was Death by Audio Arcade, which has recently turned to Arcade Commons, focusing on indie games, development, education, stuff like that. And while they were living in this communal space, they were bringing cabinets in. And then they had so many cabinets that they didn't have anywhere to go with them. They started placing them in arcades all over Brooklyn. And they were like, oh, okay, this is too much work. We're moving cabinets every couple weeks. Let's just get a dedicated place. And so they started Wonderville, which is a nonprofit organization, and they showcase art, music, game development, all that kind of stuff, all in one space. And it's kind of just like a communal art spot for the area.
Yeah.
Live concerts, punk bands, whatever it may be. And it's just turned into this beast of its own that just shows off local art. And it's hard to not say that they have the biggest indie scene in the country. Like there's so many people developing games for the arcade space. Like it's pretty crazy. I haven't made it out there yet. It's very high on my list, but so that's us demoing Galactic Battleground in Houston.
God,
this
that
was
is such a
located in Houston.
cool looking cab. I love how it's like the Konami style with like the big screen on top, and but I mean like the colors and the layout. Ugh, so pretty. I like that's one of the things too that I've noticed about like the indie cabs is that they're always like super I don't want to say like they're kind of abstract, but oh God, what is the word I'm looking for? I don't know, but like they're very like synthy and kind of like the pastel-y colors. I just love the design of very new wave old stock type deal. If that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, we all love the old stuff. Like we all love the retro arcade stuff. Like, you know, 70s, 80s, 90s arcades. Like that's what we're trying to emulate. We want to bring that same energy back. And it shows, you know, it shows in the art. It shows in the display of the cabinet. I mean, like you mentioned Food Fight earlier. Like what a beautiful cabinet. Like the side art on that cabinet is so cool. Even like Moon Patrol, Discs of Tron, like these cabinets are incredible.
Oh, Discs of Tron. Oh my God.
That's part of the aesthetic, you know, like the game is fun, the game is awesome, but like the beauty in the cabinet is why they're so collectible and why people want them nowadays. So like I was so happy to play a Disc of Tron cocktail in Chicago at Logan Arcade. Like I've never seen one in my life. We did move a Disc of Tron that our partner Brian has into Combo Breakers, and we were playing that, but the stand up situation with that cabinet was crazy. It was so cool, and I'll honestly probably never see another one in my life. Like they're so rare to find.
So Discs of Tron, when I was little, I remember playing. They had an upright one that I used to play, and I can't like my memories are like mixing, but I think it was at like a Six Flags, and then at another amusement park, but it wasn't like a big one. like one of those local ones, they had an environmental. And I mean, that thing, like, first of all, like the art you said, there's the picture on the side. If you've seen the environmental, it's just like a beast. And then you walk, it's got all the lighting in it, and it's got the voices. And it was just, I mean, like just to, it's, and I agree with what you're saying. Like all of the older arcades from like the very late 70s and early to mid 80s, when they were individually designed a certain way, were so freaking because of
There's
the
a
art.
Moon
I
Patrol
mean,
right
the
there.
control panels, the art, yeah, Moon Patrol, Robotron, and they
Hubert.
all just had their own individual glow, if that makes sense. Whereas,
Yeah.
like in the 90s, you didn't see that as much because they were using like standardized way back.
I think so. Yeah, I hear you
Do I
now.
have it?
Yep.
Oh my God. Sorry.
You're good.
My internet has been whacked out over here lately. I don't know. It must be solar flares.
It's StreamYard too. I use them too.
I normally use, like, I like to use OBS, but StreamYard has been like really easy for guests because I'm like, you have to call in on Skype and then I have to like screen share, and they're like, yeah, looks better
Saves
on
me
OBS.
a ton of time in editing, honestly. Like I like StreamYard for that reason. Like just the post is it cuts it in half for me doing interviews with guests on it.
Yeah. Good, we're back.
But yeah, I mean the
But
cabinet art
anyways,
is huge.
Yeah, it's huge. And the design, the cabinet design too, and which is one of the cool things about like the indie cabinets, is that they all are, they all differ in design, obviously, and artwork. And it's just, it's the uniqueness of each one that I think I really appreciate.
Yeah, I mean the thing that I love the most about the space, and talking to the developers, meeting the developers and seeing their cabinets, is if you're developing a game for a PC is probably a good spot to start. Like if you're developing for PC, like you can make your own layout, right? Like you have a keyboard, you have a mouse or a controller, whatever. You have a pretty good idea of what you're doing. If you develop for a console, like your constraint is their controller. You have to develop for their controller, how it works. When you develop for an arcade cabinet, you're making the controller. You can do whatever you want with it. Obviously, the goal is to keep it simple. You don't want to make a game that has 10 buttons. It's going to be confusing. But it is so interesting the way that people lay out their play field, whether it's 2-player, 4-player, 1-player, what it may be. It's always interesting to see, like, you have this idea for a game, but you have to also think about how you're going to set up controls before you even start developing.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I talk about sometimes, because I have a few of the arcade 1-ups, and it's like Tron, Dragon's Lair, and Star Wars are like 3 ones that I say, like, these are, they're control specific, and it's like you're not going to get that control specific experience with a controller. Like, you're just not, and so I think that that's one of the things that just applies to arcade games in general, is that there was always like those games that you would play in the arcade, and when it got ported home, it just was not the same because the controls were different. You didn't have a trackball, or you didn't have a spinner, or whatever. And so yeah, anyways, that's a very good point that you make, specific to designing like indie arcade games, is and like about your like from the ground up, kind of. So very cool.
Yeah, you're honestly sitting there with a blank slate. Like whatever you want to do, you can do it. You just got to figure out how to. There's plenty of different, like you can look at arcade cabinets and like some have flight sticks, some have trackballs, some have 1 button, some have 4 buttons, some have a joystick, some don't have a joystick. It's like you have a lot of components that you can put into your cabinet, and you can line them up however you feel like lining them up.
All right, let's check out. Which one of these that we've not seen would you recommend looking at right now?
I mean, if you're just looking for like cool
Ooh, free
arcades,
play.
yeah, Free Play is a solid one. They've got a really good layout in their arcade. Electric Bat is cool. If you like pinball, Can Can
Mm.
Wonderland is pretty wild. That's one in Minneapolis. It's very different from a lot of arcades. They focus. They're an art installation. That's pretty much what they are again, and that's why they were interested in bringing Galactic Battleground in because we're local artists. So
Oh,
they have a putt-putt course there, which is pretty fun. And every hole was designed by a different local artist. I didn't film the putt-putt course, but that's just another cool arcade that kind of stands out in the Minneapolis. It's in St. Paul, Minneapolis, St. Paul area. But Free Play Dallas was a really nice arcade. If you're ever in the area, definitely go. They had a handful of pretty rare games. Everything was really clean. Everything was well maintained. We talked to the technician that was there that day. I think we were there for 2 days demoing. And yeah, I mean they pride themselves on having high quality cabinets at all times. If it's not working properly, they pull it off the floor. They put something else out. So I mean this
that's
lineup
cool.
is from 3 months
My
ago. It's
God,
probably doesn't even look like
Darius.
this anymore. Yeah, just having a Darius and a Tempest casually next to each other at an arcade is a pretty wild
Right.
thing to find.
Yeah,
And
that's like
they're cool that
Darius.
they have
I've never
new
even.
stuff and old stuff.
Uh-huh. You know what that I saw Stun Runner when you first walked in, and I
Hmm.
remember playing that and just it's freaking awesome. But that would be another cool one to bring back.
There's
I
the Enter the Gungeon game.
think very control specific. Oh, that was it. Oh, that because
Hmm. I didn't get
do
a
you,
like a super close up on it, but
do you by any chance have any like closer videos on this? Let me see if I can
um,
find something.
let's see.
Enter the Gungeon
I know I
OST.
have.
Wow.
I think they did. There should be a video of them at what show was that? E3 maybe. I think
House
that
of
was
the Gun
published
Dead.
by
So
them. Yeah, the official trailer right there.
oh, okay, okay. We'll check this out.
The cabinet's beautiful. Like it's a it's a nice looking cabinet. The light gun feels
Yeah,
incredible. That was
with the
Chris. He's
recessed
the
screen and everything.
Yeah, Chris was the lead art design on it. I did an interview with him. Philip is the lead developer, I believe, producer for Griffin Aerotech. And yeah, I think they did an excellent job with this game. Like
Oh my
it's
God.
really fun.
My friend Joel needs to see this.
It was
He
quickly
does like
one of
light
my
gun
favorite
cabinets.
light guns ever. Like playing it one time, I was like, this feels great.
It looks awesome. Like it looks awesome. Like the cab looks freaking
Mhm.
amazing, but like the game looks so fun.
Yeah, it's fast paced. They did a really good job of bringing Enter the Gungeon into the arcade space. Like you still get random guns. There's a big selection of guns. They went with an independent developer out of the UK that actually made the gun. And so they have haptic feedback for every individual gun that's in the game. So every gun feels different when you fire it, when you reload it. There's a lot of attention to detail in the game that makes it so immersive that like if you get a chance to play it, definitely do because it's fun.
So wait, you said that so there's a difference between like that and then like what's playable because you said there's like a consoleized or Steam version of it.
No, so this is an arcade exclusive. The light gun version is an arcade exclusive.
Okay, okay.
Enter the Gungeon is the original franchise by Dodge Roll, who's an independent
Gotcha.
studio that was
Okay.
published by Devolver, and then Devolver. The story of actually how they got this game is hilarious. They were all sitting around after they had made Sky Cursor, and they were like, "Hey, let's reach out to Devolver and see if maybe they wanna like publish Sky Cursor and then help us sell cabinets." And so they emailed Devolver, and I don't remember who did email them, but he emailed them as the dog from Sky Cursor. So kind of like a funny way to pitch to Devolver, and never checked his email. Devolver
Whoops.
emailed him the next day, but he didn't check that email for a year. So he put Devolver on ice for a year. and
Oh my
they were
God.
sitting at a bar together one day, and he was like, "Hey, did you ever hear back from Devolver?" And he was like, "No, I haven't checked. I'll look into it." And then they met up a couple days later, and he was like, "Okay, I might have messed up. They've been sitting on ice for a very
Oh
long
my
time. I can
God.
get back to them." And he did get back to them, and they emailed him the next day, and they were like, "We have ideas for games that we want you to make," and that turned into this. So that could have been a big blunder on his part, but it just turned into a funny story that actually ended up getting them the game.
Right. Right. That's really cool that it ended up working out. Oh man. This is this is
Oh
your
yeah, that's
channel.
my video. That was the close up that I got.
Dude, that thing is just like I love it.
hmm The guns feel incredible. The light gun sensor is really good too. Like I didn't feel like I was missing my shots. The calibration was pretty solid. So I mean, it's good all around. I know they've been working out some kinks in the code. The game crashed here and there, but I believe they've since then fixed all that stuff. It's been out for, I want to say, close to a year now, maybe over a year. When they first
Oh,
reached out
okay.
to
So
me
it's still
to help
pretty
promote
new.
it. So yeah,
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I ever wanna bring any of this stuff on here too, use my platform, like let me I mean, this it's really cool stuff. Um, okay, so we're gonna start wrapping it up. I'm chat and some questions. Chat, now's your opportunity. If you've got questions, please throw them up in the chat. And I'm going to ask you if you could name your three, it doesn't have to be indie, but just all together. Two questions. It's twofold. So first of all, the very first arcade game, like cabinet that you ever played, and then your top three game.
first arcade cabinet I ever played. The earliest memory I have, I might have played one before this, but it's got to be Galaga. Probably why it's my favorite. My dad had one of those little mini cabinets. I'm sure you can still
Oh,
find them. It was tiny. It was honestly probably like a 12-inch cabinet. It was small. And it had these tiny little joysticks, and at the time I'm, 3 maybe playing it. So that was the first one. That's when I fell in love with Galaga. I think he still has it, but I don't think it's working anymore. Um, Three favorite
put you on the spot here.
asteroids.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think to like when we were in Dallas, we were playing a ton of arcade games and a ton of pinball, and I found some games that a lot of people talk about, but I hadn't played very much. So definitely asteroids. Um, Galaga's probably number two after asteroids. I've just been playing a lot more asteroids lately. Three. Oh man, Area 51.
Okay.
Gotta get one light gun game in there. I have a lot of
Yeah, there
memories
you
of
go.
playing that in the local arcade at the movie theater. Southdale movie theater is where I spent a lot of my middle school days. And they had an
Nice.
area 51 in there that I played a ton. So those have got to be the top three.
Yeah. That was definitely one of those games that was during that like Atari era where they were coming out with like some really cool weird games like
hmm
Rage, Area 51 those
Right.
games. So yeah, that's a good one. Okay, we have let's see. One game that you could see come to the arcade that's not in the arcade, what would it be? That you want to come to the arcade that's not in the arcade. If you could bring one game to the arcade that's not in the arcade you would want to bring to the arcade, what would it be?
I don't think it would do well personally, just because of the level of the difficulty of the game and like the fact that it really does shine in 4 player. And I reached out to the developers of this game a long time ago saying you need to put this in an arcade cabinet, and that's why this is the first one that came to my mind. And they got back to me and they said we already did, but just for a show. And that's Castle Crashers. I love that game. I played it so much. I had it on the 360. Played it constantly with my friends. And when I was in middle school, high school, we were playing it all the time. And it's just like this crazy, quirky, like hack and slash kind of game that I think would be really fun in the arcade space. I'm sure they have it on like MAME cabinets and stuff. But when I reached out to who's the developer behind that? forgetting. It was like E-Bombs era basically, but uh, they said that they did bring it to a convention years ago as a display piece when they were showing off the game. So they had already done it. I wish it was
That's
in more
cool.
arcades to play.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I've never even heard of that one, and it looks really cool.
It's an indie, so it
Um,
just it kind of fits with like why I would be interested in having a game like that come to the arcade. But
yeah,
I've
yeah.
mentioned it to people. I'm like, we could totally put that in a cabinet.
Uh, what indie game do you wish had a cab but doesn't yet? Does would that same?
Behemoth, that's what it was. Um, Same answer. Honestly, I'm still gonna say it'd be Castle Crashers. Like I just think it's such a fun and comical game. Like there's one part where um I'm trying to remember. There's one princess that like is always laying on her face. Like she always falls on her face or whatever. So they like have all these like little comic elements in there. And there's like a giant cat that chases you and catfish, and you can collect these little animals that give you perks. And so you got a seahorse following you and a cardinal, a whole bunch of different stuff. Like that would for sure be the one game I would want to have in an arcade cabinet.
What's the next big indie release you're most looking forward to?
Mm, I don't know of anybody that's like still quiet about their games. I know Kung Fu Kickball is going into production. That's another Wonderville project. Uh, Jonah is the developer behind that, and he worked on it with Matt Fry and Mark of Wonderville. They helped him put this cabinet together, and it's a really cool game. It's basically a fighter and kickball at the same time. So soccer and kung fu all in the same place. The other one is probably Die Breaker, which I just did an interview with them. They just released at Wonderville like 2 weeks ago. It's just another like beautiful art kind of game. The whole idea is it's like a screen printing project, and every round you win, you screen print more on it. But it's kind of that same like two players battling kind of soccer aesthetic. Um, it just hectic, exciting gameplay is like the kind of stuff I like. I like the 2v2 team games. That's really what I like.
I'm gonna let you think about this one for a second because I want to show you this. This is the game I was talking about more towards the beginning of the show, but it's called Galacticon. So it's
Okay.
kind of like a hybrid housed defender type deal. Let me see. So this is on Steam and
Mm, okay. I definitely see like the joust elements, the defender elements. This is cool. This
yeah,
100% could be in a cabinet tomorrow.
this is really. I was kind of surprised that it wasn't. Um, and it's been out for a while. So I was like, this is such an arcade platformer, and you could totally make this, like an arcade multiplayer. I think
Yeah.
this would be like an easier one to pull off.
It could be competitive or
Fun,
cooperative, like very easily.
right? It's so fun, and like this is definitely like a score chasing game. But I actually have it on Steam on one of my like my multis because this is a game that you with a joystick and buttons. Like it's just so great. But yeah, this is like the bonus stage or whatever.
Yeah, this is cool. I didn't even know about this.
Yay! I told you something new.
Where do I
Yeah,
see the
check it out on
indie scene?
check it out on
5 years.
Steam though.
Okay.
Yeah, so 5 years from now, what is the indie scene gonna look like? What do you think it's gonna look like? What do you want it like? Tell us.
I mean, I want to see it in more arcades. Honestly, I'd see the scene is continuously growing. Obviously, there was a couple year hiccup there that hurt it pretty bad. But
Hmm.
arcades are, they're back in business. They're making more money. They're getting over that hurdle of like we gotta sustain through not being open for months at a time. We're finally seeing arcades that are more willing to, take a risk on indies, and that's all we ask. Like the developers that I know, like there's so much time, so much effort, so much energy put into this stuff. And, you know, a lot of these teams are single person teams, like one, two, like we're one of the bigger teams at like 3 people. Um, so it's a very small studio for most of these guys, and you know, all we're asking for is a chance, right? Like if there's an arcade in your area that you think could do well with an indie game, like let them know. Send them. I just published the website the other day. They can go through a whole catalog of games that are available and find the one that would fit their location. So I think there's going to be a lot more indies out. I think
Mm.
arcades are going to change a little bit. Like the arcade bar scene is going to be a lot more focused on the indies,
Yeah.
um, just because that's the clientele they're looking for. You know, like I'm not going to say like kids don't like these games because they do. Like we have had great results with Galactic Battleground and Food Fight at conventions with kids. You know, between uh, one memory that I have is like this 6-year-old little boy was playing with his 70-year-old great grandpa. And it's like that's multiple generations there that are playing a game together that they've never even played. And a lot of these
Yeah.
indies bring back a lot of nostalgia for you know people that are, you know, anybody that's played old arcade games. Like we've gone to plenty of shows or we've demoed at locations where someone will walk up to the cabinet and be like, "Hey man, you got to come play this with me. Like I remember playing this as a kid." I'm like, I mean, it's been around for 7 years. We're incredibly honored that you think you remember playing this as a kid because that means that we did our job well. But it is still a new game, so it's always like a total honor to have people play the game and be like that. So where do I see it in 5 years? I think the scene's gonna be bigger. I think there's gonna be a lot more games to choose from, and I think it's gonna be kind of a staple in arcade bars. Like they're gonna have at least one. You know, they're gonna have one unique indie game for their space because these classic games, as good as they are, won't last forever. You know, like you can put a Pac-Man anywhere and it's gonna make money. But games like, you know, Crystal Castles and even sometimes Tempest, you know, like they're harder to maintain and they don't make necessarily as much money as some of these other games could make. So um, I see the scene growing. I've seen it grow for the last 7 years. I think it's just going to keep growing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I really want it to. I hope it does, and I hope that more, like content creators, because obviously a lot of stuff gets out through YouTube, and I mean, you have like gaming communities are kind of niche, but they're also, kind of big. Like when you have like the really big content creators, so I feel like the more it kind of like trickles from the smaller content outward,
Right.
it'll just bring more awareness. But I mean, I agree as far as like the bar scene goes. I think that um that should be like a big thing moving, like every bar have like at least a couple arcade games in it, and definitely like one or two indie games, right? But I mean, it's another way for them to make revenue, because I mean, you're
Mhm.
talking drinking, food, and arcade games, and competitive arcade game gives them incentives to have like competition nights once a week or something, and or co-op night, whatever. So I see like there's so much potential for it. And so I really do hope that it does grow, because I mean, just even everything we've looked at tonight, like I haven't seen a lot of the games that you've mentioned, and they're so cool. Like they're so cool. I would love to play or see some of these in local spaces out here. So
Yeah, California is a goal. We all everybody wants to get a game somewhere in there. I mean, there's so many arcades in California. It's crazy that like they're not more abundant out there. But you know, it'll catch up. It always does. There's going to be enough arcades across the country that have these games, and it's going to start becoming a draw for people that they want to go seek out arcades that have these games. And if you don't have it, you're going to get skipped over. So, you know, it's a great time to grab some of these games while they're still in production, because stuff like Cosmotrons, like as an arcade owner, if you want a Cosmotrons, you're probably going to have to contact me, honestly, because I'll know people that are trying to move them to a different location. Their arcade shut down. They're trying to sell them, whatever it may be. They're not making them anymore. So what's out is what's out. There's, you know, 100 of them that'll ever be made.
right. Yeah, scarcity is definitely a big thing too. But well, yeah, thank you. I mean, I learned a lot, and it was really awesome to have you on here and talk about this stuff. Is there anything that you'd like to share just about your channel, or anything upcoming you'd like to throw out there before we sign off?
Um, Not anything crazy. Interviews are going to continue. I
Okay.
usually try to do at least 3 a month with developers, arcade owners, just kind of covering the space in general. For anybody that's interested in making an indie game, definitely check out the channel. Like I said, I interview people that build cabinets, people that design the games, artists, arcade owners, so you can kind of get every angle of what people are looking for, what people want, how to do it. And the biggest hurdle generally for people that want to make an arcade indie game is building the cabinet. So my advice always is jump on Craigslist, jump on Facebook, find a broken cabinet that probably can't be restored, or you can part out some of the parts to, get your money back. Use that skeleton as your building block for your game, because usually all you got to
Thanks,
do
Chris.
is
You too.
rip out the playfield and build a new playfield specifically for your game. That's really what you got to
Thank
do,
you.
and then you put a computer and a screen in there, and you're demoing.
Yeah. Cool. And if anybody wants to get a hold of you or get in touch with you, what's the easiest way? Like Twitter, email?
Instagram is probably the place that I'm the most responsive. If you want to
Okay.
shoot me an email, indiearcadewave@gmail is a very easy place to get a hold of me, but I check that far less often than I do my Instagram. That's definitely the best place. If you comment on a YouTube video, I'm going to see it almost instantly. So YouTube, Instagram are definitely the best places to get in touch with me.
Okay. Noted. And you guys chat. So, all right, chat. Thank you so much for being here, and Joe. And make sure you guys check out Joe's YouTube. If you're not subscribed, go subscribe. Support the channel. Help him get his stuff out there and the indie stuff out there. And I will leave a link to his channel in the description as well. And until next time, I will see you guys then.
Thanks for having me.